the next thing that's kind of being discussed right now because of a new podcast that LeBron James and JJ Redick just put out, Mind the Game. It's on Uninterrupted, LeBron's, brand. And they were talking about most influential NBA players. And this is a debate that comes up a lot on NBA Twitter. So in part, I love the discussion for a lot of reasons. We'll get to that. But LeBron cited two, and now a lot of people are talking about it. So let's hear what LeBron and JJ had to say.
When it comes to influence, since I've been watching the game, the most influence on the game, and obviously we know what Mike did for the game.
Sure.
Well, Steph and Allen Iverson are the two biggest influential guys in our game since I've been watching and covering it.
I have an arm sleeve because of Allen Iverson. No bullshit.
Listen,
no bullshit.
One of my tattoos is because of Allen Iverson, for sure.
And Steph, I think he changed, the influence with Steph, I think, is he fundamentally changed how we viewed how the game should be played with the three-point shot.
Yeah. So I think JJ nailed it. And like I said, this is debated a lot. So this was a list, though, that Complex put out back in 2022. And it still seems to be the one that's referenced a lot. And this is their top 10 list of most influential players. But, I think the question that this raised for me that I wanted to throw at you both is, what's the criteria that we're using? And Complex, they had a list of criteria that they proposed for this list. Because I thought that JJ Redick really nailed it when he said what Steph's influence is. And a lot of times there are these lists that float around Twitter and the Mount Rushmore of who's most influential. And typically the four people you see are Jordan, Bron, Steph, and Kobe. And then there's always people who react and they say, what about AI? What about Allen Iverson? And I think, when you're talking about a cultural influence, affecting the culture, how people dress. And I mean, there's a level of how they played the game. Some of that Allen Iverson stuff, it was, the and one movement too, all of that. But I think there's no doubt in who Allen Iverson's influence. But I think often when we're talking about his influence, it is the cultural influence that he had.
Correct.
But when you're talking about influence in terms of who impacted the game, I definitely agree that I think Steph Curry has to be up there as one of the top people. He's revolutionized the game, the way that the game is played. And so, that's my opinion. When I think of influence, I just think influence also means not just, oh, well, you are great and you're a great player and you're transcendent. Influence to me is things are changing because of you. People are trying to mimic you. They're trying to do what you do. And so I think Steph has to be definitely up there. I'm not saying that there aren't others, but I think there's two different kinds of influence that we're talking about. And I think sometimes this conversation gets conflated together. So with that said, I wanted to ask you both, like I said, what criteria would you use and how do you kind of evaluate Allen Iverson's influence and Steph Curry's influence?
Yeah, I'll make this quick. Again, I've said this before, even as long-winded as I am, as the grandson of a Baptist pastor, I don't preach after somebody else has already preached. So there's really nothing for me to add or counter. I think you laid it out perfectly. I think you have to be specific with the type of influence you're talking about, because Michael Jordan's influence was different from Iverson's and Steph's. Not that there wasn't some crossover. Honestly, Natalie, I don't think it's much of a debate when you talk about the game. I mean, there's literally he did a Facebook, I believe it was, project called Steph versus the Game. I don't think it's a debate. I don't know that there's any. I don't think he's just up there. I don't know if there's anybody who has changed the modern game and the way it's played, not just at the professional level, but the way it's played at the amateur and the AAU and the youth level, more than Steph and Curry. And I think it really just comes down to. And as much as it frustrates coaches, and I put air quotes for me, coaches, but coaches, it's people think they can do what Steph did. People thought they could be what Allen Iverson was, from a basketball standpoint even. Allen Iverson's crossover, is one of the most iconic moves. Right. Not just him crossing over Jordan, but his crossover dribble period, one of the most iconic moves. But this little dude, this little tough son of a gun, going up against these trees, putting his body on the line, from a basketball standpoint, just like how people played the game, Iverson was your favorite player's favorite player. Yep. And so a lot of people tried to mimic his moves, mimic the way he handled the ball, mimic the way he drove and attacked, but because they could see some of themselves in Iverson.
And that picture there too. This is a part of it too. The pictures, so
how Iverson he dresses.
Iverson with the headband.
But I'm strictly talking basketball-wise. I'm strictly talking basketball, not cultural. Not the intersection of hip-hop and basketball, not his fashion, not his rebel image that he had at one point. I remember when David Stern had his, I think it was David Stern, rest in peace, had his tattoos airbrushed. You know what I mean? Like, we've come a long way from it. They were trying to sanitize Allen Iverson. But I'm just strictly talking about at their size, and Steph is 6'3", he ain't small, but at their size, they're more easily, quote unquote, able to impact the game because more people have a realistic shot of approximating Steph Curry. Like, you could convince yourself that you could beat Steph Curry on Allen Iverson if you work hard enough. If you work hard enough, you can convince yourself. You can't grow to be 6'8" and 260. You know, you can't grow to be 7'3". You can't be Wemby. Like, but people have convinced themselves, and that's what I was saying, it frustrates coaches that kids think they can beat Steph Curry, as if Steph Curry not only is gifted, but Steph Curry has spent countless hours perfecting his craft. So from a basketball, the game standpoint, I don't think it's any comparison to what Steph Curry has done. And Michael, I'll let you take the cultural part, because I'm sure we see it the same way with Allen Iverson. Only other person I put in the conversation is Kobe. Yeah, I think Kobe culturally and the way the game is played, you cannot have an influence conversation without Kobe Bryant, because a whole generation.
Well, I would say this.
See, and I feel like MJ is in there too. I'm sorry, but because of the sneaker culture, because of sneakers, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. And sneakers, his hair, like the bald head, the shorts, the socks, everything with MJ, all that. It was the way he dressed going to games. They didn't always dress like that, because when he started, MJ I'm talking about, as a rookie, we had track suits and gold chains, and which is fine. And then he changed to more of a corporate look in the suits and the tailored thing, and and the tie and all this stuff. So he changed that.
In terms of moving weight, in terms of moving weight, influencing corporate America is Michael Jordan and everybody else. Yeah.
As silly as it sounds, everybody got an earring now. Everybody wears earrings. That was not the case in 1988, 89 when Jordan started doing 1990. You wouldn't see NBA players like that. They had gone the other way, and Jordan brought that little piece in, and then AI and others took it to the next level. But I'll say this, Natalie. He says he's the grandson of a Baptist preacher, and all these preachers say, as I go to my seat, and then 10 minutes later,
as I close, preaching. I still have a lot to say.
So he said he wasn't going to preach, and he still preached. I'll make it. I really will make it quick. I'm gonna say with basketball, and some of the people, I'm going to argue with you and say they don't belong on the basketball list.
Okay.
All right. If you go back, Jordan, you're right, Natalie. Go back to 1986, that 63-point game Jordan had against the Celtics. It's weird to watch the game. I did this a few years ago. If you watch the game, it's like Michael Jordan is from another era against the Celtics, who were the championship team that year. They were the standard. They were a great team. They lost one game at home all year, and they almost lost that game to the Bulls. But Michael Jordan was playing a completely different game against the Celtics, and nobody had seen anybody play like that before. So 1986 is one of those markers for transcendence. Go back 1979 in hip-hop and in basketball. 1979 Sugar Hill game. 1979, Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, 6'9" guys who were throwing, who were passing it and shooting and rebounding. Hadn't seen that. That's why I don't put LeBron on the list. I don't put LeBron on the list because he was Magic Johnson stronger and faster, but I didn't see anything from LeBron, if I'm being honest, that I hadn't seen before. But it was just the prodigy, the genius of LeBron is obvious, but the way the game is played, meh. But Steph, oh wow. Think about 2011, 2012, how the game was played. And then think about Steph in 2014, 2015. no question. A different era, a different style, different defense, different everything because of Steph. So I'm going.
He broke the game.
Yeah, give me you're about to list, but give me your Rushmore. I want both of your Rushmores really quick. Your Rushmore of most influential.
I got one missing. Okay, there you go. I got, Bird, Magic, Jordan, AI. And Steph. So Bird's not on the list. I think Bird should be on the list. Since 1980. Since 1979.
So Bird, Magic.
And Magic, Jordan, and then Steph.
In that order.
Or
just Rushmore.
Not necessarily in that order.
Okay.
No.
What about you, Mike?
Magic, Jordan, Steph. Well, and all for different reasons. That's why this is such a rabbit hole. This is such a rabbit hole because it's like, I could argue LeBron's influence. So, all right, because again, Natalie, like you said on top, how do you define influence? And it's just like, hey, 10 greatest players ever. It's like, well, wait a second.
But you stuck it. You kept it to basketball, though. You kept it to basketball.
Just in my comments. Just in my comment.
Yeah.
But if we're broadening it out.
It is a rabbit hole. If we bring in culture and all that stuff, then it switches. But basketball.
Right. LeBron politically, academically, socially, culturally, corporately, LeBron is up there with anybody, right? Which is obviously why he's number 2 on this list. I think Magic has both. Magic influencing the way the game is played, the prototypical point guard, but also his influence in society, at large, and just
Jordan too.
and his brand. Same with Jordan. But I think there's also mentality as well. I think LeBron's influence. How many guys wanted to make the right basketball play the way that LeBron always did and be this incredible passer and teammate that LeBron supposedly is. No, I got it. I'm saying
Bird, Magic.
Kids.
So, it's not new.
But all those, no, I'm not saying it's new. It doesn't have to be new. It doesn't have to be innovative. I'm saying there are people who did not watch. There are people who didn't watch Magic and Larry. Michael, there are people who did not grow up watching Magic and Larry, but watched LeBron and tried to emulate LeBron. So emulation is a form of influence.
But Michael, I think that's a different conversation. If you're saying
that's what I'm saying. I'm saying something different than what you're saying. I'm saying that LeBron James, his influence, it's not limited to, his I Promise School. It's not limited to, his political statements.
Are you putting influence and innovation in separate categories?
Yes, I'm saying that's what I led off by saying. I'm saying influence has many different definitions, which I think is a central thesis of this conversation, because LeBron's mentality and the way LeBron sees and approaches the game, hence this podcast, I think has been influential in its own right. I'm not saying he's different, and he is different from Michael from Magic Johnson. They're not the same player. There's similarities, more similarities than differences, but he's different from Magic Johnson. But like LeBron, I said, you can't.
I think,
and I'm not disagreeing. I may ask you both. Let me ask you both.
I'll give you my Rushmore in a second.
From a just basketball, because I get the cultural. I agree with everything you said about cultural influence and all this stuff. Did LeBron do anything that changed the way you thought about basketball? For you, for either of you, like.
The way I
never
thought about basketball?
That was possible. I never thought that was possible until I saw LeBron do it.
He's the most versatile player ever. He's the most versatile player at both ends ever. Arguably, I'll qualify, but I don't think I have to.
Though.
So yes, I never thought somebody, Justin Fields. I never thought I'd see somebody that big, that fast, that strong, that skilled, and that versatile in one package of a player. So the simple answer is yes. But what I'm saying in terms of like
the most versatile player ever, Magic played every position, played center in a championship game and got 42 points and 15 rebounds. Like what?
Dude.
And a point guard, a guy who could play point and center? That's versatile. He was an all-league defender, second team
LeBron plays them all and defends them all. And has a more evolved game than Magic did.
He plays center.
He has played. Yes, he's played center. Not in the NBA Finals, but Yes, he's
All
playing
right,
center,
all
Michael.
right, all right. But this is a conversation about influence, not versatility.
But Michael trying to be argumentative and whatnot. He's trying to poke
No,
the
I'm just
bear.
saying,
Well, the bear
you
has
said
been
he's the most
poked.
versatile player ever. That's a bigger statement than Justin Fields, a quarterback.
It's not.
That's a
No, it's
huge
not. That's a
statement.
It's
basic
not.
statement.
LeBron
Thank you,
James
Many
Natalie.
people
That's
say
basic.
that.
Most
That's
versatile
basic.
player
That's
ever.
basic. Yes.
I think that
Okay,
if you ask
but
people to make
that's
a list,
crazy.
LeBron would be up there.
But wait a
if
second.
not
Okay,
number
but wait,
one.
He's up
hold
there.
on. But wait, Mike. But Mike. Okay. I'm not gonna say this started with LeBron. I'm not gonna say that. But I'm saying in
Okay.
terms of the way the game has evolved, could one argue that this positionless basketball era that we live in, LeBron has been at the forefront
I
of
would
that?
disagree with that.
That he has not helped to usher in this era of positionless basketball? I'm not
I
saying it's
think
him alone.
For me,
I'm saying like, yeah, go ahead.
I mean, for me, the way that I view LeBron, and it's not a on the court thing, and it's not that he's not one of the greatest players either. It's
Sure.
just that's not where I see his impact. But I think it's like the business of basketball, like the player
Yes.
movement and all of
100%.
that. I feel like
Clutch,
he is
Clutch, Maverick,
Yes.
Rich, Spring Hill, uninterrupted,
Right.
Yeah,
media
all this
mogul,
stuff. Yeah,
all of
huge.
yes,
So, like,
yes,
for me,
yes.
when
He's a
I think
billionaire.
of
a billionaire, it's huge.
his influence and impact as it relates to basketball, it's in that regard, right? Like he's just a phenomenal, one of the greatest players of all time. But when I'm thinking of players that changed the game, I haven't really heard a lot of people. He was on the list, but like Shaq to me is what I think of. Like it forces defenses to change how they go.
Well, if that's the case, they widen the lane for Will Chamberlain. Like, I mean, it's like,
And
they
he
had
was
to
on
change
that
people-
list, but I'm just saying that's
Right,
what
they
I'm
had to
thinking
change
of.
the rules for people. Yeah.
Right. Like you
Yeah.
have to change the rules, or people are trying to follow what you do, or because you play a certain way, everyone does it. Because like let's be clear, like the Spurs were doing motion offenses before the Warriors were, right? But like everyone didn't start saying, let's try to run the Spurs offense, even though it's a beautiful way to play, right? And so to me, when like you're eliminating positions, like I get that we have Jokic and Embiid and they're saying the big man's coming back, but when you're eliminating positions, when people are trying to mimic you, when the entire sport has changed, like that's what I think of in terms of like influence and changing the game.
But I don't think it's just limited to cultural, social, economic. I do think LeBron, in his own way, again, this is not an either or, not to the extent that a Steph has, not to the extent that some of the other players were talking about that the game has evolved around them. But I'm saying in his own way, people have tried to mimic LeBron's style of play. But the point I really wanted to make more than anything is just I think there's also just there's people, one of the criteria was transcendent. And that has multiple meanings as well. We can go down a whole rabbit hole on just the definition of transcendent.
Right.
How people see and discuss not just the game, but life. I mean, everybody understands what Mamba mentality means. Like, you can use Mamba mentality in context outside of basketball. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so for
Right.
like Kobe, right now, if I take a shot at a trash can and go Kobe, everybody gets that. Like there's a level of transcendence associated with Kobe that can only be described as influential because a whole generation of people. That's what I was saying about LeBron, Mike versus Magic. He was the player they grew up idolizing and watching and wanting to pattern their game after, even if Kobe patterned his game after Jordan. So there's also just like who is so ingrained in our collective psyche and in the vernacular. And it's just like, I remember when Kobe died, that's why it hit all of us so personally, even if we didn't know him, because we did not know a pop culture universe without Kobe Bryant in it. Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying. Like we could pull on a lot of different strings with this, Natalie, because it's
go
just
back
like,
to one of your-
what does influence
frequent-
mean? And
Right.
Yeah.
So give me your Rushmore then.
One of your frequent examples, and I want you
What's
to give
that?
your list after this. Your frequent examples, I'll tell you, an actual quote, what you just said was very similar to what Stevie Wonder said when Prince died. He said, I cannot imagine a world in which there is no Prince. And so, it's so strange with no Kobe. You're right, Kobe. But there's a connective tissue with all of these players. And every once in a while, that's why the list, really the top 4 you're about to give us, that's why 4 rising up is appropriate, because every now and then somebody does something in this connective tissue like, whoa, I'm so used to this, but this is different. So who are your 4?
So at the very beginning of this first episode, they were talking about what makes a great player. And I want to say the first thing that LeBron mentioned, if I'm not mistaken, Natalie, was a recognition of the greats that came before them, right? I don't know. Now, again, this is another definition of influence. Michael, you're going to appreciate this. It's going to hit right in your wheelhouse. It's going to hit close to home, literally and figuratively. I don't know how you can have a conversation about influence and NBA players and not start with Bill Russell.
Yes,
both on the court, being the centerpiece of the definitive dynasty in NBA history. Sorry, Lakers fans. And also what he meant in terms of activism, and moved in different ways in his entire life. So if I could, I would love to. I'm a cheat. I'm gonna do that thing I do where you say, give me a top 5 and I give you 6.
Rushmore.
I can't.
Rushmore.
I can't.
Because you gotta do 4.
Because
okay.
And
by the way,
all right.
Time. In the interest of time, too. How about 4?
The interest of time. Yeah. How about 4? Yeah, that's true. I'm gonna stop saying that preacher thing because all I do is ramble. I'm my grandfather's grandson. I used to have to get him off the pulpit sometime. They'd be like, "Yo, Mike, go get your grandpa," because I just can't mention those things about Bill Russell and not acknowledge Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in the same way. That's all. That's what I meant. Okay, Bill Russell's one. Bill Russell's on that list. Steph's on that list. We covered Steph. That leaves me with only 2. I gotta go Jordan. And if I had to pick one more in terms of influence.
I know who you're deciding between your final 2.
Who, Iverson and Kobe? Is that what you
Oh, I thought it was LeBron and Kobe, but Iverson and Kobe.
LeBron.
Okay.
I thought it was Iverson.
No, I'm not gonna put LeBron. As much as I just talked up LeBron, I'm not gonna put him on. If you only limited me to 4. If you only limited me to 4.
I knew Kobe was one of them.
Yeah, it's probably Iverson. Iverson. Just like, what a phenomenon. What a cultural phenomenon
like all
that
these
guy
lists,
was.
These lists.
Kobe would if Kobe were here, he'd probably say, "Hey, dumbass, put Iverson on this list." That's what Kobe would probably say.
So Natalie, your 4. Natalie, what are your 4?
Oh, we're directing the question back at me.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna have to go. I like Shaq, Steph, Jordan. I guess I'll go Kobe. It's hard. It's a toss-up between Kobe and AI for me.
Yeah.
No LeBron, huh?
I feel like Shaq's influence is very underrated.
No LeBron. No.
None of us had LeBron.
And I didn't do it either.
So why are you targeting me, Mr. Ohio?
No, but
none of us had LeBron.
Y'all were both telling me LeBron sucked, and I'm sitting up here telling you what a great player he is.
Not that he sucks. Not that he sucks at all.
Okay.
And we all kind of laid out what we thought influential was, so people are clear. I'm focusing mostly on the game. Like how basketball is played. That's my focus.
And it's a different list.
No, to me that's Steph.
And for me, the list will change when we start talking about all things like you did with Russell. And Russell probably should be on there. Even if with basketball, I should have put Russell on there. Because if you take his activism out, the game wasn't played like that. Like that moment that the game changes where it's above the rim. Okay, that's when it happened. When the first time he stepped on the court in 1956, that's when it happened. So 56, 79, 86, 2014.
Okay. I know you have to run, Holley, but this is great. Let's remember this because it would have really led into what I want the next topic to be. But what you're just saying right there about Bill Russell, I think is important because there are people who weren't able to watch Bill Russell, didn't see him. We only hear about him. And I just want to leave you with food for thought for when we talk again. But it's about what is the media's responsibility to teach and educate about the game.
Good. That's a tease. I like that. Ooh, that's
Okay,
good
Shaka.
stuff. Okay. Tell me something good.
I
Tell me
expect to see that
something
poll.
good.
I expect to see that poll. I need to see this poll. Watch it be 100%. Like, look, Mike, when you got this one right, you may not know shit about Justin Fields or running quarterbacks or much else, but you nailed that one. 100% agree with Michael on Natalie and Shaka Khan. I guarantee it. I'm calling it right now. That can't be the first time you heard that.
It is the first time.
Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.